fights. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Jailton Almeida, who this past weekend put on a grappling clinic, defeating Derrick Lewis by unanimous decision across 5 rounds in the main event of UFC Fight Night that went down in Sao Paulo, Brazil, in front of 10,000 strong Brazilians. And they cheered on their hometown boy. The scorecards for Almeida read 50-44, 50-44, and 50-45, all for Almeida. Mark, give us your take on this fight. It was, in my opinion, one of the most boring, incredibly dominant performances that I've ever seen. What's your take?
I was basically going to open with the same exact line. I don't think I've ever seen so much dominance be so frustrating. Like, it's such a strange fight. Jailton Almeida continued to show why he is referred to as Brazilian Khabib, at least in terms of the takedown and control ability. I mean, he took full mount about a jillion times. He rolled Lewis, who's a massive man. No matter how Lewis moved, he rolled with him most of the time. He showed a lot, and he's talented as hell. But in terms of activity on the ground, Khabib, he is not. We know he likes the methodical setups, and that's all well and good when you're having success with them and you're getting guys out of there in the first or the second. But, man, this one got pretty rough because he really took his time, as he likes to do. But to be in full mount time after time after time, the way that he was, and to do nothing with it is wild. I don't know that I've ever seen a fighter more inactive from mount. I mean, the commentary team was begging him to throw strikes. His corner was, too, at certain points. I don't know what made him feel like he couldn't open up more than he was. I get it that he wants to keep Lewis under control, and Lewis is a big man, and he has this reputation for just being able to stand up. But at a certain point in time, when you're in mount for like the 5th time in the fight, you got to do something. So I don't know. I don't know if he hurt his buzz or helped his buzz or what he did in this fight. I mean, the talent is certainly there, and the inactivity in this fight didn't change anything about his talent. If anything, it showed you how much better maybe he could still be if he can work through that part of his game. But it's just a weird one. And Derrick Lewis didn't even fight badly, man. I was actually really impressed with how calm he stayed on bottom, how sound he was defensively, how his cardio held up. I mean, he looked fine in that fight. He was just fighting a guy who can take down an elephant, and that's what it was. So hopefully we can see Lewis in there with a striker in his next one. And Jailton Almeida continues to march up the ranks. We'll see how aggressive they want to be with him.
All right, let's bring Omar in here. Omar, what were your thoughts watching Almeida dominate the great Derrick Lewis, staying away from those heavy strikes? Oh, you're muted.
Before we get into that, I just want to point out now that Mark made me think to myself, we were all laughing at the elephant joke, and I thought to myself, how much does a baby elephant weigh? Guess how much a baby elephant weighs, Mark?
200 pounds.
250?
260 pounds.
Wow.
So
a baby elephant is a heavyweight.
The phrase Jailton Almeida could take down an elephant is probably fucking accurate. So
do you mean like? Do you think
that's
that's like
harder to get him off balance?
Do you think that's like an infant elephant, like the baby elephant that drops out of the mother's womb is already 260 pounds
and 3 feet long, dog? That's correct.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, rhinos are kind of like that too. We're getting off topic, but
yeah.
Rhinos are like 100-pound babies.
Let's talk about the fight.
Anyway, yeah, this was a crazy ass performance. I think we all knew how good Jailton Almeida was, but I think we all Mark made a lot of good points about the performance from Derrick Lewis. There's not a lot of people who've been able to do that to Derrick Lewis and not finish him. And Derrick Lewis, I thought, was definitely defensively sound. It's just rough because he spent 21 minutes and 10 seconds on the ground, which now is the most control time in UFC heavyweight history. And you could see it, man. He didn't really have an answer on the ground. Like Mark kind of alluded to, he's been able to Derrick Lewis his way out of shit before, right? Where he just stands up and makes people doubt that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu even works. But he wasn't able to do that here. And Almeida is on a different level, man. And I think the fact that Almeida was able to close the distance as many times as he was without dying, and being able to control Derrick Lewis as long as he did without really ever giving up position. It wasn't even like it was a back and forth kind of thing. You know, it definitely wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, but dominance, you can't argue the dominance in that fight. And to dominate Derrick Lewis is a pretty big deal.
I will say this. I cannot think of the last time a ref was yelling at a fighter to do something in the mount. It almost seemed like Mark Goddard was like, please do not make me stand you up from mount because I will get tarred and feathered in the MMA community.
Yes.
Like you could feel it, right? Like you could feel it. It's like, is Goddard thinking about standing them up?
Yes.
Because it's been like 10 minutes.
I think in his head that you're exactly right. He was like, this motherfucker is going to make me do it.
Like he was like, you're just sitting on him. Just do something. Yeah, man, I'll say it again. Weird. It was most dominant, boring fighter, most boring, dominant fight I've seen. And I say that as a fan of Jailton Almeida. Like, as he's come up, I'm like, this guy, who's going to beat this man? I'm a big fan of his skill set and what he can do in the cage. Mark, what were you going to say?
I was coughing. I just keep coughing. I wasn't saying anything.
No.
Had a cough for like 3 days. It's like one big cough at a time. It's the weirdest cough ever. It's like I'm just so suddenly choking.
I do want to echo what you were saying, Mark, about the calm displayed by Derrick Lewis. I, too, was very impressed by, I think we can call it the maturation of his skill set and the evolution of his skill set. Derrick Lewis is a more complete mixed martial artist than a lot of people give him credit for. I know he is the heavyweight knockout king, at one time the UFC all-time knockout king, and he is known and should be and will always be known for the thunder that he carries in his hands. But man, he against a guy who is as incredibly good at jiu-jitsu as Almeida, Derrick Lewis, you could tell he had a really good sense of where he was in danger, where he was safe, what he needed to do, and hats off to him, man.
But those are the levels right there, right? I mean, that's Almeida. You can see is a high level jiu-jitsu black belt, right? And as good as Derrick Lewis is, I think the game that his ground level is at is to be able to survive, is to be able to make sure that he doesn't get submitted. But it doesn't go further than that, you know, especially against a guy of Almeida's caliber. Once he was on the ground, he was probably never really going to get back up, short of finding a moment to just do what he normally does and just stand up. But he wasn't going to out-technique Almeida into getting up, right? He wasn't going to hit a switch or some kind of sweep to get up off of that ground. It just wasn't going to happen.
As we've seen against lesser grapplers who work in a takedown against Derrick Lewis, he has the ability, as we've seen in like the highlights leading up to this past weekend, he could just literally stand up, be like, I'm too large and too strong for you to just try to hold me down. But not the case with Almeida. Almeida, his offensive jiu-jitsu is pretty much what we've seen from him. He has not needed to be any kind of defensive grappler at all. And I'm going to segue off that point into what could be next for Jailton Almeida. Mark, give us a name. I know my name of who I would love to see him fight. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but what do you think?
I have a very long answer, but the crux of it is that I don't think it's worth matching him up until Sergey Pavlovich and Tom Aspinall fight this weekend. And here's why. This is the long answer portion of this. Bones and Stipe ain't happening for a while still. So in my mind, whoever becomes the new interim champion on Saturday is going to need to defend that belt once before they're ever fighting the winner of Bones and Stipe. And my best guess is that defense is going to be against Cyril Gane, who is ranked number 1 at the moment. So to me, that takes him out of the picture because I think he's getting that fight. I know that's who Almeida asked for. So then that leaves the loser of Pavlovich and Aspinall, Curtis Blades, and Volkov as potential opponents for this guy. And then you get into all the math of who the loser is. Like, if Sergey loses, him and Volkov already fought Blades. So my guess is that Almeida gets Blades in that scenario. And you could do the same type of math if it's Aspinall who loses, who he's already fought, and yada, yada. So I don't think it's worth matching them up until we see who loses this fight. And then to me, it's the loser, Blades, Volkov, Almeida, and those 4 fight each other in 2 fights. So I think you wait and see.
Omar, what are your thoughts?
My answer wasn't so eloquent. The Curtis Blade fight fell apart. Rebook that shit. Let's go. Curtis Blades.
Yeah, Blades is my answer. Alluding back to the point that I made in terms of we haven't seen Almeida have to be a defensive grappler. And I don't know if how much he would want to be an offensive grappler against Blades, or how much he'd be able to be an offensive grappler against Blades.
I actually, my sort of outlook on it is I want to see how well he does against Blades in the counter wrestling. I actually want to see if he can make Blades super uncomfortable, because Blades is the kind of guy you put him on his back, he's also not going to do very well.
It's almost like he's just too big. He's like,
it's not that. He's a wrestler. It's his instinct is to be on top, right? His instinct is to take people down, be on top, control. But Jailton Almeida, you could put him on bottom, and he'll still fuck you up. Put him on top, he'll still fuck you up. And the real issue with Almeida is that he's so good on bottom, he can go from being on bottom to being on top really quickly. So there are a lot of different tools that Almeida brings to the table that I don't think Curtis Blades does. And if Curtis Blades is puts himself in a position where he's on bottom, he's not getting up from that position.
If you ask me what fight I want to see the most from Almeida and what fight makes the most sense, I fully agree that it's Curtis Blades. I guess I was more so answering in what I think is realistic, just because, like, say it is Aspinall that loses on Saturday. Mm-hmm. He just beat Volkov, and that's the only other guy there. So he's going to I think he'll probably get Curtis Blades in that scenario.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's like Almeida Volkov. So I was just trying to, like, figure how it would all shake out. But my favorite matchup for Almeida, because of everything you guys are saying, is absolutely Curtis Blades. That's the test that I would want to see.
Pavlovich is also obviously very intriguing because Pavlovich has the touch of death. So it's always interesting to see someone try to figure out that puzzle.
Dog, they all do though, man. I mean, he just went against the KO King, and he's fine. Yeah. He like walked out of there like scratchless.
He really did. It was wild.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Pavlovich have to try to grapple much, have we? Because he ends everybody so quickly.
Yeah, maybe I can't remember how his first fight went, because I know that was probably
his loss. His loss over him beat him on the ground,
right?
Yeah, he beat him on the ground. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Granted, I think maybe a lot of improvements have been made since then. That was quite some time ago.
For
now.
Sure. Okay, let's talk about Derrick the Black Beast Lewis. Where does he go from here? Omar, what do you think at heavyweight could be his next fight?
I'm thinking it's probably time for him and Alexander Romanov to finally meet. It does not look like that is something that has happened, and I think Romanov is, from what I remember, should be on his way back sooner rather than later. Hopefully in better shape and kind of in a better headspace from what it sounded like before. So I think that's a fight that, if we're going down Derrick Lewis's resume of who he hasn't fought at this point and kind of where he is in his career, I think that's a good fight to make.
Mark, what do you think?
Much more straightforward answer than my Almeida one. I have been banging this drum since before we ever even started doing this show. Now is the time, just like every other time was the time. I want Derrick Lewis and Jairzinho Rozenstruik to get in a goddamn cage.
Yeah, why haven't
And it
they
makes
fought?
perfect sense right now. Book it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Did Rozenstruik? He just lost to Almeida, right? That was his.
He's coming off a loss. Yeah.
To
Is he
Almeida?
coming off Almeida? Has he not fought since then?
No,
Yeah.
I think he has. Am I wrong?
I don't know. Now I'm looking.
Yeah, I'm looking too. It's a good fight, though.
That's his last fight.
It's a great fight.
Yeah.
Dude,
That
like,
could
it has to
easily.
happen.
Yeah.
Fucking someone's knocking out the other one. I need to know.
It's wild to me. Dudes are just like, I fought in May. I'm not going to fight for the rest of the year. I'm good. That's
You
wild.
never know
to
what
me.
happens to pick up some fucking injury or.
I guess.
I feel like there's always shit behind the scenes. Like, we didn't even hear about... I don't know if you guys heard about this, but did you guys even hear that before Usman took that Chimaev fight recently, that Cannonier took it? And for 24 hours, it was Cannonier versus Chimaev?
No.
See, this is what I mean. Like, stuff just happens behind the scenes and you don't even hear. I forget what I was listening to that I even heard this. But, yeah, first Cannonier accepted it. And as they were about to announce that it was Cannonier Chimaev, literally like half an hour before, he called them and said he had been training with an ankle injury and was going to go through it. And I guess he was compensating for it, and he fucked up the other ankle. So he was like, I literally am hobbled now. I can't fight. And then that's when they came up with the Usman idea.
Fuck.
Should have
So he's
found a
out for
more
like 5
powerful
months. Needed to get
stone.
some surgery or something.
Wow.
I just feel like there's always shit happening that like half the time you don't even hear about why guys are like out for a bit.
That would have been a crazy fight too, though. Wow.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see that. Okay, let's move on unless you guys have anything else to say about either one of these heavyweights. Cool?
Go for it. Hey, next one. Yay.
Oh, nice.
Go Sports.
Did he beat the Spurs?
Yep.
Wow. What did Wembanyama have? Just curious.
I don't know. I'm opening it right now.
For those who might not know, this is like 5% a New York Knicks podcast.
This is ridiculous.
Wembanyama only had 14.
Maybe 10%. Good. Okay.
Wow, we were very balanced tonight.
Let's talk about a
Let's
fight.
get back to MMA.
Let's talk about a fight that literally got me out of my chair as I was watching this. I stood up
Bro.
Fuck yeah.
out of my chair. I was like by myself. I was like, holy shit, that was fucking awesome. Nicolas Dalby, round 2 TKO, taking the O away from Gabriel Bonfim. Omar, give us your thoughts.
I mean, Nicolas Dalby's a fucking dog. That dude is. I mean, that shit is it really took a turn for me watching that. Obviously, once we had Bonfim against the cage, it wasn't a great sign. But like, Bonfim was still in it, right? Still throwing, still trying to move, still had, he had a head movement. He had it, right? And then Dalby hit him with a fucking elbow that like you could hear across the other side of the globe. And Bonfim like wiped his face, I think, trying to shake it off. He ain't go nowhere. He was fucked up. From that point on, he was not the same. That one elbow ruined his whole life in that moment. It was, I mean, they brought Dalby in there to lose. Let's be wholly honest, right?
Yeah, yep.
It was a good test, though.
That was, sure, but that was Bonfim's world, right? Bonfim, this up-and-coming prospect, undefeated.
In Brazil, make a star.
Yeah, choking everybody out, doing all kinds of crazy shit, right? Dalby was there to get fed to Gabriel Bonfim, and instead destroyed this man in front of the entire crowd. And not only did he destroy this man in front of the whole crowd, he silenced the crowd. This man knocked him out, walked him out, gave a salute, and no one said a goddamn word in that crowd. It was amazing. It was, I mean, these are the kind of moments for me that make MMA worth it. This shit was,
100%.
It was amazing.
This is the kind of moment, this is the kind of fight where you say, this is why we watch. This is why they fight the fights. This is why they play the games.
Yep.
Oh,
This is
so
why
good.
I watch this sport.
Like,
I mean,
yes.
dude, Dalby had some beautiful, beautiful Muay Thai in there. Beautiful close fight. Like there's guys who like to fight on the outside. Conor McGregor is one of them, right? You'll see him bounce in and out even when he's got a guy against the cage. He's still very rangy, right? He keeps his range very, very well. Dalby's like, fuck you. I'm right up against you. I'm right in your face. I'm going to elbow you. I'm going to clinch you. I'm going to punch you. I'm going to knee you. I mean, the pace that man puts on while he's just destroying you is wild.
Yeah, 50% of his effectiveness is the not letting you breathe aspect of it.
And that's a great game plan to bring in there against Bonfim, but turned out to not be intimidated, to be like, you might be this undefeated up-and-comer phenom, but I'm just going to go right at you.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And if you don't have an answer for it, man, if you don't have an answer for it, you spend too much time trying to figure out what to do. And by the time you have any idea, you're already tired because you've been on the back foot now for like 3-4 minutes. You know what I mean? It's rough. It's rough.
Mark, let's bring you in here. What were your reaction as you watched this fight?
My reaction is put some respect on Nicolas Dalby's name. First off, what a friggin' win. Yeah, I mean, Omar said some of this, but the man marched into Brazil as a huge underdog against a 15-0 killer who had never even seen scorecards in his career, and he absorbed the best he had to offer and then took him out. And for those that may not be aware of Nicolas Dalby, like, yes, he has a couple losses that you don't love, which is why he's not a ranked level fighter, but he now holds victories over Zaleski dos Santos, who we'll talk about, Daniel Rodriguez, Muslim Salikov, Gabriel Bonfim, and also has a draw with Darren Till. That's a pretty damn good resume. He is the real deal, and he has proved it again here. Bonfim came out on fire, just like he usually does, but Dalby made a decision in his mind that he was walking forward no matter what. He was like, I am going to break this man before he puts me down. And in the first round, you could tell that Bonfim didn't love the constant pressure, but he was dynamic enough to find ways to counter it. And then in round 2, he gets that takedown and half the round passes, and it's all looking well and good. But when Dalby gets up and he is still just coming straight forward with that constant pressure again, you could see it. Bonfim started to look like he was like, all right, enough. Like, he wanted to be like, can you give me a break? Like, he had that look on his face where he was like, when is this dude going to fucking back off? And that kind of pressure will break you, man. And it broke Bonfim. He really looked like he hit a point where he was like, this is crazy. And I think he kind of started to panic a little internally as he like wasn't getting the breath under control and wasn't getting to reset. And Nick Dalby smelled blood, and he didn't let him escape. And Dom Cruz said it best. He said that Nicolas Dalby's game plan was to make it a race. And that's exactly what he did. Bonfim jumped out ahead, but he couldn't hold the lead, and Dalby closed hard and finished that fight. Huge fucking win.
Huge win, man. Oh, can't wait to rewatch that one. Let's talk about the winner here, Nicolas. What's his nickname? The Danish Dynamite.
That might
Nicolas
be it.
Nicolas Dalby. Moving up into the welterweight, more and more towards the welterweight rankings here. Mark, what are your thoughts?
I think he's earned himself another real shot. I know the loss to Tim Means was only a couple years ago, but the wins he's getting right now and the way he's looking in these last few, I think he deserves another pretty big fight. First one I'll say is not super realistic. It's definitely swinging for the fences, and I'm not even sure the other guy would accept this, but I would really love to see him and Rafael dos Anjos. I just think the back and forth and the pace and the war that fight could give us is awesome. Again, that might be a little too much in terms of what he can actually get. So if not that, then I'll say Santiago Ponzinibbio.
Nice. Omar, do you have any other ideas?
Yeah, so I did think about RDA, and I also came to the conclusion that RDA is not going to take that fight because he probably doesn't know who the fuck Nicolas Dalby is.
I know.
So I did, and no shade to Dalby. I just don't think RDA is at a point now where he's looking at guys that he doesn't already know, you know?
Right. I know.
But I landed on Michael Chiesa. I thought this would be a good fight, a good test of Dalby to see where he's at in that sense. And honestly, at this point, to see where Chiesa's at, because he's had a little bit of a rough go lately.
I like that too. Yeah,
I mean,
so
Chiesa's been
too.
Yeah. Chiesa's been killing it in his, building his commentary career. I loved lightweight Chiesa. I feel like welterweight, it's just, it's a tough, I feel like it's been a tougher weight class for him.
Dog, I can tell you that as a person who has stood next to Chiesa, he ain't making 155. It's not.
Oh no, he's never making 155 again. He got so fucking
he's a tall
big.
Guy.
He's a big welterweight.
He is a massive human being. Like he's way bigger than I thought he was. He ain't going nowhere near 155. Not safely, anyway.
He's listed at 6'1".
Yeah. He's thick though. That's a thick boy. He's not skinny, man.
At this point, yeah, he let himself fill out when he came up for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Let's talk about the Brazilian, Mr. Gabriel Bonfim. The hype train has momentarily stopped Omar, think about who at welterweight you'd want to see him at next to maybe right the ship.
I feel like it's more than just stopped. I feel like we done come off the tracks just a little bit. Bonfim done got fucked up, man. That was a rough one. I think you got to pump the brakes a little bit, right? I think we had the nice prospect moment. It's his first loss. It's not like he's going anywhere, right? He's still a great fighter at this point. But I do think you need to pump the brakes. I think they were trying to throw him in this deep water to see how far he could swim, and the man almost drowned. So let's take it back a step, and let's give him somebody like Max Griffin, who comes in there to scrap, and let's see what we can do.
That's a great one, Mark.
Exact same matchup.
Hey, let's go. Let's go.
I think you don't want to, bump him back too far or anything. Obviously, we see the talent that he has, but I think you put him in there against another veteran guy who knows how to win fights and can be tricky and poses some threats, and you see if he can pass that test.
Yep, that's a great way. If for Max Griffin to win that fight too, like just taking the Bonfim part aside, but Max Griffin getting Bonfim on his resume as a win, that's a big moment for Max Griffin. Yeah,
and he's coming off the loss to Morales, so there's no reason that he wouldn't be taking that fight. So yeah, 100%. It's a good fight for both of them, I think.
100%.
Bonfim, he's only like 21-1 now, so it's not like he's like suddenly a bum, but as he's marching up into these UFC, rankings further and further up, again, like Max Griffin is the kind of guy who is a real veteran of the sport now. He's not going to be intimidated by a guy just because he has some great record coming into the UFC. He's not going to be intimidated. He's not going to back down. He has a complete skill set in Max Griffin, so that's a good one. I hope they make that. Man, that'd be great bragging rights for you guys.
I'm not always super sold on dudes that are undefeated in general, just because there's still those questions to be answered on how he can take a loss. How does he come back from a loss, right? Gabriel Bonfim been riding a nice little wave. He's been, messing dudes up here and there. Does the confidence take a hit now, right? Is it just a loss? We can just brush it aside and just keep working and, but is it now a concern? Is he going to now be concerned that somebody can crack him the way that he just got cracked? You know what I mean? There's just questions now that need to be answered that we've never had to do with Bonfim before. And I think we'll get a better sense of who he is as an overall fighter in his next fight and whether he's really that championship caliber or just a decent fighter that we'll see kind of throughout the UFC years.
That's an interesting thought. I don't know if I agree. I feel like to be undefeated in MMA is a big deal because I feel like it's so hard to be undefeated in MMA.
I don't disagree with you, but you also have to take account the level of resume, right? Bonfim has fought people that just weren't at his caliber, but we as a fan base are trying to figure out what that ceiling is for him, right? Everybody's hyping him up. He could be champion, and he just got his ass mollywopped by Nicolas Dalby. And it's not to say that Gabriel Bonfim can't be champion, but now he's got that loss, right? Now he's got something that could prevent him mentally from doing well in his next fight. I'm not saying that it will, but we don't know. And I think that's more my point is now we'll get a better sense as to who he is as a fighter having to come back from adversity.
It just makes me think of like boxing, like so many more guys in boxing. I feel like everybody's undefeated in boxing because they all wait until they're all making millions to fight each other. Here's an example. Max Holloway, right? We've seen Max Holloway lose. It doesn't, for me, take any shine away from who he is as a fighter by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, knowing how he loses and comes back in his next fight, almost like, not to say that it doesn't affect him, but you could see that he still puts on the best performance. There's nothing that really changes his confidence after he loses a fight, right? He accepts it, he learns from it, he builds off of it, and we continue to move on. We don't know if Bonfim can do that. Hopefully he can, and we see him better in the cage next time. But we've also seen fighters who are undefeated all of a sudden start losing 3-4 in a row out of nowhere. And then we don't see them in the UFC anymore. So just an interesting point. Let us move on.
I agree with both of you.
Congrats to Nicolas Dalby, man. That fight gave me fucking chills, bro.
No, it did.
It did. I'm sorry that happened.
Okay. Moving on back up to the heavyweights. Rodrigo Nascimento defeats Dontel Mays once again this time by unanimous decision. The scorecards read 30-27, 29-28, and 29-28, all for the winner, the hometown guy, the Brasileiros Nascimento. Mark, give us your thoughts.
All right, I'm going to try to be a little quicker from here just because we have a lot to do and we got to preview this pay-per-view still. But, yeah, Rodrigo came out hard, man. He was walking down Mays all fight long. He was very willing to exchange, which you would think was not the easiest route to victory against a long, powerful striker that Mays is, when obviously Nascimento had the grappling to potentially fall back on. But he made it work. I mean, he certainly ate a few to do it. There was some solid exchanges between them, and Mays definitely had a couple moments in there and may have even won round 3, I think. I didn't rewatch it, but I thought he might have taken that round live. But it was already 2-0 Nascimento at that point. So now he's beaten Mays with his grappling. The first fight, he's beaten him with his striking this fight, and we'll see now if he has earned himself a ranked opponent.
Omar?
You know, at some point, I would love to see heavyweights throw straight punches instead of just looping shit all the time. Like, you'd be surprised how often these guys are susceptible to just one right down the pipe. But they're so big and so powerful that they just want... I feel like there's just that instinct to just, like, if I could just get him with this one big punch, like, he's dead. You ain't wrong. But at the same time, you're not getting there. And we spent so long in that fight just winging stuff that was not landing. And no adjustments were really being made. I got to be honest, I really didn't care for this fight. I don't like the sloppiness of a lot of the heavyweights. I've said it before. Dontel Mays went through he ate some shit in that fight, though, I will say. Nascimento did catch him a few times in there, but I just think I was never sold on Mays, and I think Nascimento still has a little bit more to prove, I think, in that sense as well. But it's just one of those heavyweight fights that I can't bang with, man.
Yeah, I agree. For a fight that was this high up on the card, I just felt like it was a scrap.
A weird placement.
It was a scrap,
Yeah, I mean, there was a point where Dontel Mays was against the cage, like egging him on. Like if Dontel Mays wasn't getting lit up in those moments, I don't know. It's weird.
Let's quickly talk about where these two heavyweights can go from here. First, Rodrigo Nascimento. Mark, give me a name.
I'm going with Tai Tuivasa. I said it back when Tai lost his fight that I was eyeing the winner of this fight for him, and I know it seems like a big name in Tai for a guy who maybe shouldn't be getting that big of a name in Nascimento. But I'm looking at it more from the Tai side, which is why I said this back when we talked about Tai's last fight. He's been finished in 3 straight. I think he needs a step down. I think he needs to show he can still beat a guy like a Rodrigo Nascimento. And on the flip side, Nascimento does need to fight a ranked fighter at this point. So that's where I'm going.
Omar?
I had written down Augusto Sakai, and I think I was looking at a different set of rankings, and now I don't know if that really makes sense.
Yeah, he's gone. He's gone from the UFC.
He's gone, right?
Yep.
Sons of bitches. Goddamn list wasn't updated. This is why I need access to the Prio rankings. This man has them behind a gold vault.
I had someone working on a website, man. I think he was nearly done, and then we just...
He was nearly done?
Stopped conversing, but we should check in again.
We should probably do that.
Hey, do you still have that on your server?
I think he does.
I don't hate the Tai Tuivasa pick. I just feel like it's a big jump for Nascimento, personally, but
who did you pick?
Apparently I had Augusto Sakai, but apparently they tossed him the fuck out, so my pick has gone to hell.
Did Nascimento get ranked? I didn't even look.
15
right now. Oh, 15. Okay, yeah. So he's in. Yeah, he's got to get a ranked fighter. You would think.
Yeah.
Cool.
Honestly, I know I said Alexander Romanov for Derrick Lewis, but Nascimento might be a good fight for Derrick Lewis too.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to the middleweights. This was a fun scrap. Caio Borralho defeats Abus Magomedov by unanimous decision. The scorecards read 30-27, 29-28, and 29-28. All, once again, for the hometown boy, the Brazilian Caio Borralho. Omar, give us your thoughts.
It's a scrap, man. Borralho is good, though, and I think we talked about this when we were all watching the fight, that Abu seems to have a very small gas tank, or at least runs through it fairly quickly. And he does throw things with a lot of power. He doesn't always land things, which I think takes away a lot of the gas that he has in the first place. But he doesn't really seem to pace himself for the eventuality of what might be a 15-minute fight, potentially even more. God help him if that was a 25-minute fight, right? And Borralho, everybody's going to get tired in there. I don't think anybody's getting out of a 15-minute fight not tired. But Abu seems to hit a real hard wall once we get into like the 8-minute mark of a fight. And Borralho was able to completely take over and really just end up stealing that fight, like getting away with that fight completely. And I thought it was a good adjustment from Borralho to kind of push the pace and really take advantage of the fact that that Magomedov was tired. I had Borralho winning all 3 rounds, but I think the first round was probably the most competitive, I think you could say, and arguable, I guess, as to who won that fight. But 2 and 3, I thought, were for Borralho easy.
Mark?
Caio really came out and was willing to put his back against the wall down a round with 2 to go, because he was pretty inactive in round 1. But it worked out. You could tell in round 1 he wasn't going to commit to much unless he saw a big opening, and he really just wanted that time to elapse so that the cardio of a boost could drop a bit. But then on the flip, you also had a boost notably fighting more composed and trying to conserve his cardio. So it was really a strange round 1 where no one committed to that much. I thought a boost did take it. And then he got the gift of the big delay from the eye poke toward the end of round 1. So he got a big break, and it still didn't matter. By the end of round 2, he was already slowing down. Caio was taking over, and then it was pretty early into round 3 when he truly hit a wall again and had nothing left. You can't pick this guy to win fights right now, man. I understand he's dangerous, but it seems like he has 10 minutes of cardio if he's lucky. I mean, it might be 5 depending on the day. And it got exposed again. Caio fought a smart fight. He upped the aggression each round. And then in round 3, he really took the fight over. I thought maybe he'd find a sub once they hit the mat. That would have been nice for him to finish it that way. But
yeah,
either way, he definitely did do enough to secure the win. And he showed again that he is well-rounded, that he's not just a grappler. And Abu's got to figure some things out.
Yeah, man. It does seem like the man's got a lot of fast twitch muscle, and he carries a lot of muscle, and it takes its toll. I mean, kind of similar to Gabriel Bonfim. Like, he's a guy who came into the UFC with a fair bit of hype himself. He looked good in his first UFC bout or 2, and then he runs into Strickland. And it's like, you run into a level that it's like, oh, okay, this is right now is where his ceiling's at. Let's talk about where Caio Borralho should go from here at middleweight. The man is legit, I believe. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really want to kind of pull the trigger and say someone like a Jack Hermanson, who hasn't fought in a while, who needs to defend his spot in the rankings at this point. And I think Caio makes sense as someone to do that against. He looks like he might be that level of fighter. Maybe that's a bit too aggressive. If it is, then I guess my other option would be like a Brad Tavares, I think is a pretty logical next step. But I don't hate if he kind of skips that step and goes right to a fight like the one I mentioned.
Omar?
Yeah, he is currently not ranked, so that would be a hell of a jump for sure. I had for Borralho the loser of Andre Muniz and Junyoung Park. I think that fight's coming up in December, so I think that'd be an interesting one to see.
Nice. Okay, let's move on to another fight that had me on the edge of my seat. Rinat Fakhretdinov and Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos ends in a majority draw. Fakhretdinov drops Zaleski in the first round. Zaleski comes back, thundering back in the second round. In the third round, more of the same. Ends up dropping Fakhretdinov and nearly finishes him. Didn't quite have enough in the tank. And the third round bell rings and it ends in a majority draw. Omar, what were your thoughts watching this? Were you biting your nails on the edge of your seat like me?
I mean, a little bit. You got to give credit to Dos Santos, though. I mean, that dude's got he's got a chin on him, man, because he was getting cracked in the beginning of that fight, clean. And he was able to survive from it. He was able to kind of, work from the bottom and not get completely destroyed from bottom, work his way back up, separated, kind of seemed like he cleared the cobwebs. But I thought Rinat obviously took the first 2 rounds and he was very good. I think where there's opportunity there to sort of take advantage of him seems to be in how much weight he puts into all of his strikes. Obviously, when he lands, he hurts people. But when you have leg kicks that are involved, and you saw it a couple times throughout that fight, you can just remove the base. If you time it right, especially if a boost, I'm stuck on this fucking guy now. If Fakhretdinov is continuously putting weight on those punches, winging those punches, he's putting so much weight on that front leg that a nice little leg kick right to the calf at the right time is going to take his whole base out from under him. And you did see that happen at least 1 or 2 times from Zaleski Dos Santos towards the legs of Rinat. So there are definitely some things there that could probably use up some tightening that don't make him as vulnerable in fights in certain situations. But I thought it was a great performance, honestly, from both dudes. They were scrapping from beginning to end, regardless of how that fight came out. I could definitely see why there was a 10-8 in the 3rd round. I think Rinat almost got finished, twice? Maybe, was it twice? I feel like it was twice. Could have been twice. Either way, he was definitely close to being stopped. So there was definitely an argument for a 10-8 round. So not really mad at the draw.
Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. We actually got a correctly scored draw here, which was nice to see. What a fight this was. Good for my boy Zaleski getting himself some shine here. And he came real friggin' close, as you guys said, to getting Rinat out of there. If he would have continued to the body once they hit the ground instead of the head, I think he may have had a better shot, because Rinat was really hurt to the body, and you could tell even when Zaleski did go to the body a couple times when they hit the ground, it looked like it was still bothering Rinat, and then he switched to the head and stayed there. So you never know. But either way, what a comeback from him. I did have him pretty clearly down 2 rounds. He got dropped bad in round 1, had to deal with Rinat on top of him, and worked his way back up to gain some confidence back there when it looked like he was in some trouble. And round 2, I think he absolutely did still lose. He was getting outstruck, but he was getting Renat's timing down a bit as the round went on. He was investing to the body. Renat's punches were getting slower. They were getting longer, a little loopier.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And then in round 3, it all came together. And as I said, he came real friggin' close to getting it done. But props to Rinat also, man. He pushes a great pace. He's always walking forward. His punches are so long, and it seems like they always find a way to land. Even when his opponents think that they've stepped out of range, they still get clipped at the end of the punches. But he did slow down a bit here, and he definitely lost a little bit of that invincibility aura, kind of like we were saying about Chimaev last week. I think same thing here, to see him almost finish the way that he was. That unstoppable aura he had is kind of gone a bit. But it doesn't change that he's still very good, and Zaleski shows those who may not have known that he is very good. So great fight from both men. I enjoyed watching it, and draw was the correct call.
He's still very good. I'm sure whoever he faces next, he will fuck up. That being said, who might that person be, Mark?
So I doubt this gets run back because it was a draw or anything like that. I think they both move on with other opponents. I think they're in very similar spots, which I guess makes sense considering they just drew. But for Zaleski, I am going to go with the Leech. I think that's the kind of opportunity that he deserves. I don't know what – I think Jing Liang is due back pretty soon. He's been out for a minute. So hopefully I'm right about that. So I will go with Zaleski and the Leech. And for Rinat, I'm going to go with Alex Morono.
Nice. Thanks for giving them both to me at the same time. Omar.
You're welcome.
Yeah, those are both names that I definitely ran through as I was trying to pick somebody that made sense. I landed on Pons, actually, for Zaleski Dos Santos, and I landed on Kevin Holland for Rinat.
Oh, boy.
Exactly.
Nice. Poor Kevin Holland.
Yeah. Okay, one more.
I'm not saying he can't win. I'm just saying, like, fuck, that's a hard one.
It is a hard one. They're all hard ones. Okay, one more before we hop into the lightning round. Angela Hill, UD over Denise Gomes. Omar?
Yeah, I mean, we said it last week, man. Gomes, and actually, so Angela Hill, I think, said it best at the end of this fight, is Gomes is going to be somebody. I think Gomes, you can see she has the talent. She has the ability to go far, I think, in this sport and in this division. I just don't think it's her time right now, right? I think Angela Hill definitely took advantage of the experience differential that there was, and earned a win for sure. But skill for skill, Denise Gomes is a fucking problem. Like, she definitely made Angela Hill work for that win. I'm glad Angela Hill finally won a fight where we didn't have to wonder who won a fight. That was really nice. And I got to say, I think that was really Angela Hill's best performance that I can remember of recent memory anyway. So great time to be on her A game. Great time to come out and show out the way that she did. I love the fight. I had Angela Hill winning all 3 rounds. So I thought it was a great fight.
Mark?
Yeah, she fought so well in this fight. She came out and immediately set a tone and let Gomes know that she was not going to bully her in that fight. And then from that point on, it was kind of a clinic on being all the way out or all the way in. You know, anytime Gomes got her in that phone booth range where she could throw hammers, Angela Hill kind of just ducked inside and clinched up. She was stronger in the clinch. She was landing a lot of nice knees. And then when they separated, she did well to strike from range, like I said. And maybe best of all for her, she showed her grappling, she kind of showcased it in round 3, which is an area that she is always improving in, and it is really becoming like a tool in the bag for her now at this point. So just a solid veteran win for Angela Hill, and she really did to Gomes exactly what I thought she could. So that was nice to see. And I think it's the kind of loss that Gomes can learn from and be back.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Okay, let's move along a little further. Omar, who do you think could be next? Matchup, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Omar, you go first this time. Give me the names for these 2 ladies before we go to the lightning round.
So for Angela Hill, honestly, I was having trouble trying to nail down one. There's so many good options, I think, for Angela Hill at this point. But I landed on either Tabitha Ricci or the loser of Amanda Hebas and Luana Pinheiro. And yeah.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, those are both good options, and I thought about both of those too. I mean, I guess Ricci is someone I did list here. Because she's fought so many of these girls. A lot of them are booked right now or out for different reasons, like Tisha and Esparza and whoever. So, yeah, the 2 thoughts in my head are Ricci if she wins on Saturday, or even Andrade if she loses on Saturday.
Ooh, I don't hate that, actually. That's a good one.
Not at all. Not at all. Let's see. Let's go into our lightning round now.
Wait.
Ready?
Wait, did we do Denise Gomes?
Oh, Mike
Okay,
hasn't
give
been
me
letting
Denise
us do the losers. We only did 2 in the last one because it was a draw.
Okay, give me Denise Gomes.
Well, she done fucked up my girl Jasmine Hadagui, so let's put her in with my other girl, Ismael Lucindo. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
I got Emily Ducote for her. I think that's a solid scrap.
I'm not mad at it.
Lightning round. Here we go. Elvis Brenner, round 1 knockout over Krzyzewski. Mark, go.
Elvis Brenner shows out again. Unfortunately for him, he got handed a late notice opponent. You know, not huge name value there, but he still made the win matter about as much as he could, getting a first-round KO. And that was the 3rd time he threw that right-hand step-through, left-hand combo. So he must have seen it and really believed it would land because he was kind of going back to the well with it. But obviously he was right. 3rd time was a charm because Krzyzewski went down hard. So, yeah, great knockout, great moment for him in Brazil.
Yeah, man. Omar.
Dude, it didn't even look like it hit him flush, man. It looked like it just grazed his temple, but the switch went off, completely off. Krzyzewski went right down and was not getting back up. Elvis Brenner is here, man. It's a very, very interesting prospect, and it's very interesting to see kind of where he goes from here because from a skill perspective, watching him fight, pretty fucking good. Pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see what this ceiling looks like, man, because he could be a real issue at this weight class.
For sure. Okay. Vitor Petrino, round 2 knockout over Modestas Bukauskas. Omar.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, man. First of all, Petrino is another one who of these kind of guys that likes to wing punches and throw really wide looping hooks.
Mm-hmm.
But as we have seen in this fight, when you connect with those punches, you can knock somebody straight the fuck out. So Petrino definitely walked away with a W. I would think he might want to tighten it up a little bit, but he had a great performance in this fight, no doubt.
Mark?
Yeah, I got a similar take. I mean, first off, it's obvious since the day we first saw Petrino that he is a big, powerful dude, and that shot certainly put Bukauskas out. But I can't decide yet if I think Petrino is like beat ranked guys type of good, or if his technique isn't quite where it needs to be, and that he's more just like a crushing lower level guys type of good. So that remains to be seen for me. I would also like to see him tighten it up a little bit, but we're kind of hitting that point where we're going to find out soon enough, and because he keeps finishing these dudes. So I'm excited to see it because he does seem well-rounded. The strength is there, the danger is there, and obviously that was a great walk-off KO for him in Brazil. So we'll see where he goes next.
Okay, Eduardo Mora, round 2 knockout over Monstrat Ruiz. Mark?
This was just a bullying. I mean, straight bullying. Mora was as advertised, specifically in her jiu-jitsu. There was nothing Ruiz could do underneath her. Plus, Mora was way bigger. Granted, she missed weight, which is not the best. You would hope she can get that in order. But wow, that was dominant. She looks like she may be a factor in that division already, just based off on how good she looked in that debut.
Yeah. Omar?
100%. I mean, she completely outclassed Conejo in that fight. I can't imagine Ruiz will be back after this loss. I would probably expect some walking papers soon. But Mora did work, man. All the hype that seemed to come with her debut here really showed. I mean, her ground game I thought was exceptional. Her control, her aggression from top. I mean, she looked good. She looked real good in this fight.
Okay, last one. Mark Jacasey, split decision over Canu. Had his name Canu Fernandez?
What was I saying? Kawe?
Kawe? Sorry.
I forget.
Either way. Omar, go.
Yeah, this is seemingly becoming the story of Mark Jacasey, where, you know, there was a time long ago when Mark Jacasey was a striker, and somewhere along the line he got tired of getting bullied on the ground, and he's become the bully on the ground now, and he takes people down, he controls them on the ground. Not the most exciting fights, but you know, he definitely did work, and he had to work for it as well. I mean, this fight definitely wasn't like a dominant performance like the Almeida and the Lewis one, as we were talking about earlier. But Jacasey is using his wrestling to get his wins at this point, so good on him.
Mark, take it home.
Yeah, Caio Fernandez didn't look bad. You can tell he's a dangerous striker, and it'll be interesting to see him in his next one. But yeah, as we know, the new Mark Jacasey is a well-rounded guy, and against most opponents, he's kind of able to lean on that well-roundedness and find whatever's going to be the easiest route to victory for himself. And he did the same thing again here. He won the latter 2 rounds of this fight. He may have even won the first. Honestly, I wasn't sure when I watched it live, but he certainly took 2 and 3. You know, it was competitive the whole way, don't get me wrong, but he did win it, and he fought well, and he gets another dub.
That does it, folks. And that is...